Hiya, I'm Zenobia, and I've been making my game solo called Diary for a while. And since this is my first devlog, there's going to be a lot of information. I'll try to make them at least every month to update everybody on my progression, but you can also just check out my Discord server, I'll link it below. I've gone quite the great distance with making my game without ever publicly logging it. And to be frank, I've been delaying it for quite some time. There's a lot to go through, so I think we should get started. Diary is a game where you travel alongside Amakra to discover the world that her friend Circeus has taken her to. Yeah, this is a very interesting story. I tried to keep the premise simple and sweet. The game was based on me trying to keep the idea and scope of the game relatively small, and sadly this just didn't age very well. Currently, the game is much bigger than I envisioned, but knowing me, I will power through the hardships that will come my way. All of this brings up a bold question. How big is the game exactly? The game holds 10 chapters, each having an identifying quality. Chapter 1 focuses on the mystery of the world around Amakra, really making you question the environment and who Amakra is, since you're traveling with her and have a shared mind. The game doesn't perform in a fourth wall break manner, but instead Amakra communicates to you, the player, or rather the one within her mind. She can hear you, but others for the most part can't. This chapter sets the tone, gameplay loop, and mood. Amakra is playful and cheery but very reactive to the world around her and your responses. Depending on how you act towards her, she'll react back. She has her own being, and she has feelings. And I think the first chapter communicates this to you very well, in a subtle way. My first main mechanic in the game that I programmed was emotions for Amakra. These emotions are not displayed to you, but they do exist behind the scenes. Using her responses, you can gauge if she agrees or not, and her feelings towards you will ultimately change. Different spots throughout the game will change, and sometimes, depending on how she's feeling, she'll take action to agree or disagree with your views. Her response will change to the world as you manage your stability and feelings. Garnering too much hate will in turn gain Amakra to spy you and take control a lot of the time. With both you and her trying to move her body at the same time, what you do indefinitely has an impact on the game's gameplay. Speaking of gameplay, I haven't talked much about how the game really flows. It can be spaced in the realms of a Metroidvania, but it's also a platformer. Having non-linear progress in most parts of the game, I could relate to something of Hollow Knight or Pikmin. The game has an end goal, but the way you get there can be in so many different ways. The controller feels swift and squishy like Celeste, and honestly I've gotten so many comments about Celeste and how it looks like it, but honestly I feel like it's more Eastward inspired, especially with Chapter 2. Although my list of inspirations are long, I think the game has its own sense of identity. The mechanics feel like a natural, fast-paced platformer, even including rush hours in a similar style to Hat in Time. But the bosses with different styles kind of remind me of Little Big Planet 2. The game fits so many categories, I don't think it has a set genre. I'm just making a game that fulfills the roles that I feel great for a game's progression. Anyway, on to music and sound effects. I'll just go ahead and say this right now. The music is already done for the whole game. You might be wondering why. I work best off of music, and it helps me build a visual and oriental sense to construct the game. It might be a weird way to approach this, but I think it actually works extremely well for me. Anyway, the game's soundtrack is pretty interesting, you should definitely check it out. It's on my YouTube. And, fun fact, all the music in this video is from my soundtrack, so that's even better, right? Anyway, it's taken me quite a while to finish all the music, and honestly, it's well worth it. But I wish I had more ability to make the best pieces you've ever heard. But I have to be real with myself. I'm not going to be making headbangers like DM Totoro. Little insert here. I'm currently listening to Roar the Jungle Dragon while making this, so it's a bit of a coincidence, but back to the vid. As for the sound effects, I just used my sound design knowledge from making music to incorporate crunchy, squishy, fable, and even funny sounds. You can't be scared when creating sound effects, and it's probably the most versatile and fun processes when making a game. You can even be like goofy, silly even, And I did not expect this when making a lot of the music in Diary. You can just be kind of like yourself and just meow in the mic. That's exactly what I did for Cat Star Blast, and it's really fun. When making music, I went through a lot of inspirations, but the one that remained consistent was Steven Universe and Terraria. Funny I used a mod in that game. But regardless, I enjoy my time making these small sound effects and music. I used a lot of pianos, wavy synths that tried to modulate pianos, and funky little instruments that I failed at replicating other sounds in songs. The weirdest part is it actually worked, and I developed a style for the game which is actually recognizable and gives off a charm that I can't really explain. Now that I covered all the basic looming troubles over my head, I can actually get into the meaty stuff. There's a lot in this chapter, and considering this is the only first and the shortest, I have a long ways to go. I don't want to spoil the game, but I kind of have to since I'm giving information, so here we go. First, I created this new tree sprite. It's something, but I don't know where to put it in the game, so I'll just leave it be for now. This happens way too often with a lot of the animations and sprites I make for a specific area. Sometimes they just don't fit, even after animating and putting them into a sprite sheet. I just don't know where to put them. The thing is with my art style for the game is that it's heavily reliant on hues and color theory. The shapes of my art are usually more square-esque, and this can be an issue for most games by not having great structure. But as some wise person said, if you can't fix it, turn it into a niche mechanic. So I tried to play deeper into this blocky formation, even going as far to make small unidentifiable structures in the BG that influence the color. Hell, you can't even tell what's really happening here, but it looks like a bush, right? Yeah, I thought so. Now I've been doing art for a long time, and I can thank myself for forcing myself to pick up the mouse and go into a sprite. How do I draw again? We have these boxes too. I mean, they explode. These took forever to fix because I just kept duplicating. Just a code issue. There's a lot of little small added mechanics I can quickly go through, like the reply system, where she'll talk to you with more dialogue depending on how much you die. With a small absorb mechanic, where Amaker can absorb different drawings and text into her diary. They're really small, but they add personality to the game. I think that's all I wanted to talk about this time around. Short, but it gives a general basis to what the game is. Be sure to check out the demo in the description and hopefully I can get it on Steam. I'm waiting until I'm 18, which shouldn't take too long. That'd be June 1st, so it's not very far out. Anyway, I think you should definitely join the server. I talk there from time to time, and it keeps you updated on what's to come. I love you all, and see you later.